do a quick live for you this morning using the Family Fam, the Grateful Dead Tarot deck. So, if that interests you today, do stay tuned. I'm still getting over a bit of a spring cold. I think it's because I was traveling, in the airport, and I did not mask in the airport. They recycle all that air and stuff on the plane and everything. So I've been coughing up some stuff and blowing it out. You know what I mean? But I don't feel bad, thank God. I've also been trying to hydrate, go on walks, things of that nature, right? So that I'm clearing that out of my body. And I'm also eating some, spicy foods as well. That helps, a lot of times your sinuses get going. So I'm going to raise this up just a little bit better angle here for us. Okay, I'm trying to get this Palo Santo. It's like, I don't need my incense, and my Palo Santo was just here working yesterday. Sometimes it takes a second for it to get going. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, anyway, thank you for joining. Hopefully, you've had a nice, relaxing weekend this so far. If you're the type that has weekends off, okay. If your weekend starts now, welcome. If you're one of those Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, off types, right? Sometimes our schedules change, right? We don't always have time to do the things that we used to do, such as maybe go on tour, right? Randomly, like, oh, I'm taking the summer off, I'm going on tour, la 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 la. Not everybody has the time to do that every single year, right? And it's not for lack of trying sometimes or wanting to having the conviction to do it, but sometimes it just doesn't flow that way, right? So a collective part of the message I am getting for you today is that walking away, for some of you, is kind of like God's saving grace. Okay. And I also put in the title Sugaree, because if you specifically what I was getting, because and I've seen this before, it was on one of his Netflix specials, I believe, Dave Chappelle telling the story of Sugaree, and what that is actually asking of somebody. And then of course, he very famously turned down, a multi-million-dollar contract from Comedy Central, after his Chappelle show, like, just, blew up, right? Everybody was all, watch Chappelle show, right? And then it's like, yeah, Dave, come on, give us more, Dave, give us more, right? So he kind of talks about that. And, for us as humans, we are only humanly capable of doing so much with our lives, so much with our time. We do not have an infinite amount of time on this planet. So the time that we do have, we should be what? Excellent to each other, right? That's not hard to figure out, is it? But some people want to complicate things. Those people end up on, sometimes on Dateline NBC. And sometimes there's a person who gets caught up in the crossfire, gets caught up in somebody else's karma, essentially. So, no, I am not cooking this morning. I do have some leftover Mexican in the refrigerator. Made by Mexicans, not like a real live Mexican that got in there, you know what I mean? What your husband do aliving, I bet I'm better. Feo means ugly in Spanish, you know. So no, I do not have an ugly husband. Thank you very much. If you're trying to greet me. I am from the United States, California. I am from the United States as well. I am a Midwesterner. Although I have been to California, not a lot of California. I've been to Joshua Tree National Park, which I thought was quite nice, that area. And then I've been to the San Francisco Bay Area. Hello, Nancy. Dublin Snob says, "Good morning, Yankee." Are you from across the pond? Is that why you're calling me a Yankee? You ever see the, well, you've probably heard the Yankee Doodle Dandy song, but there was also wasn't there a movie? Yankee Doodle Dandy, was that with oh my god, he played in all those mobster movies. And then he did like this tap dancing thing. Oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name for the life of me. James Cagney. Yeah. So, somebody who played a tough guy, right? And so, that was probably a thing for him in Hollywood. Like, hey, come here and play another tough guy. Hey, he was always playing these mobsters and stuff. And then to see him like doing this like song and dance routine, like he's playing like at a kid's party or something, you're like, what? But yeah, so typecasting. Maybe you're somebody who's in theater productions or video productions, and people want you to play a certain type of role. Um Another famous actor, this is interesting, Fred McMurray, who played the absent-minded professor. He played an off-character role in Double Indemnity, famously playing somebody who was the lover who would stop at nothing to get rid of the husband, right? For insurance. And yes, those things actually still happen in real life, even back in 1940, whatever, when that movie was made, right? And he's actually the insurance policy salesman too, right? So he helps like orchestrate the whole thing. Yes, there are people out there that want to mastermind and do those things. Again, often they end up on Dateline or 48 Hours. Unfortunately, a lot of times there's a victim along with it, you know. Me getting on here to you is saying, hey, don't be naive, right? You can be nice to people, right? Just don't be naive, right? Because as soon as you turn around, I'm not saying, it's 9 times out of 10, but sometimes you get around the wrong crowd of people, you know. Um, if Caesar didn't get stabbed by Brutus, I mean, wouldn't somebody else have done it, right? By that time, you know what I mean? It's kind of like because he had so much, right? He had so much power. They were all just clawing. They're all just clawing, right? Yeah, it's hard to be at the top because you got who's right? Carlito's Way. If you've not seen, I've mentioned it on this channel before. Nancy says she's 10 years old. Well, this may be a more grown up tarot message than for kids. So this is not a kids channel. A lot of Irish actors in Hollywood today. Yeah, who is that? Is it Colin Farrell who did some of those movies like in the 90s and 2000s? I thought he was Irish. Irish or Scottish? Definitely. Yeah. So for some of you, you could even be getting into a movie today, be getting into a book, something that's going to open the doorway to your imagination and kind of let you think of the possibilities that are out there, because we are on this planet for a very short time. It's like you might as well do something like fun or nice or good, right? Instead of all this like there's people that don't even live to see their 20th birthday. Like, so You know, what if that was you one day? You know what I mean? Like just putting your imagination cap on for a second. It's like, well, what would you have tried to accomplish during those 20 years? Right? Um, so for some of us, 20 years is a career, right? We go through elementary and secondary schools, and then, so that's like your first 20 years, right? Priming yourself on the planet, right? People didn't used to live much past like 45 even, right? 60 was ancient, right? Now people on TV dancing in them diabetic commercials are 65 years old. Okay, so there's more to the future than what you have potentially already seen, especially in your ancestral history. If for some of you, you are the person trying to break those generational cycles, right? My father has already outlived his father by several years, but my father takes way better care of his body, and my mother doesn't cook with lard. Every now and then I wonder that. I'm like, was grandma trying to do something there? You know what I mean? Oh, El Diablo. What is it, that show Everybody Loves Raymond? Like, do you want to be like the grandma and grandpa couple next door that are always like hating on each other? Like till the end, it's like, who are you modeling yourself after? Right? Um, or you're like, oh, well, honey, maybe we can do, lard in this one dish, but like everything else, we're gonna use like olive oil or just like a regular butter, or you know what I mean? Or even, oh my God, you guys, I have used the Country Crock plant butter. I personally like it. And they have like an avocado oil flavor, and then they also have some other kind of flavor if you like a flavor to your butter. Like it kind of reminds me of the old margarine, but obviously margarine has like trans fats and stuff in it, I believe. So that's why they kind of stopped with the margarine. My brother knows Colin Farrell's dad is a meat butcher back in the day. Well, you know what? We all need meat markets. And, it's funny. This one town I drive to sometimes because they have good sales at their dispensary. They have a dispensary in town for cannabis, but they do not have a butcher in town. They do not have they have grocery stores, but they don't have. I was like, is there a butcher? Because I like to get raw bones for my dog, and then I'll get like maybe a steak or some chicken or something. I mean, get whatever, but that's one of those. What else? Who in the movie National Velvet, the father is a butcher. Yeah, so work. Some of you could be thinking about work, thinking about your career. Um, say maybe you are like, especially spring, like you're entering upon, like you're gonna have graduation soon. It's like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? Right? Trust me, there's plenty of years ahead to freak out about that if it doesn't turn out. Am I right, older folks? Am I right? Okay, so don't freak out about it now in your 20s, right? You got a long ways. Um, as long as it's something productive, right? I think at the end of the day, that's kind of, you know, and productive in the way that's not karmic. You know what I mean? Productive in the way that's not like, oh, I'm going to be really hard on my kid and ride my kid's ass so they get this scholarship so that I have a better life later. So I don't have to work as hard later. Yeah, people like that. Like when I drove Uber, I picked this guy. So he didn't even have a vehicle, right? I had to pick the guy up to take him to his kid's game, and then he was bragging about how his kid's gonna get the scholarship, and he was telling me how he's single and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, is he like using his kid as a little pawn piece, like to try and like rope me into a date or something? Like it was really bizarre, and it's like, ew. It's like, this is the type of dude that would open up a freaking credit card using his kid's social security number. You know what I mean? And he probably is not even legally allowed to claim this dude on his taxes. Yeah, but he'll show up to that game, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, cheers from Papa, right? Somebody in the chat says, I am really struggling hard for daily meats. Inflation is breaking my mind off. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't things in the world, in the exterior world, that affect us. Yes. It's our reaction to it that, we mostly have some control over. That doesn't mean you're going to be without feeling and emotion towards it, right? What I would suggest to you, Kieran, is to spend some time in nature. Okay. Most everybody can do that, and it's 100% free. Okay. Then it's going to help your mental health. All right. Some folks I've worked with over the years, they did like they cut the cord for cable. You know what I mean? Some people thought that cable was a necessity in their life. Well, then they realized it wasn't. Um, and again, this is not to like come in and try and because I don't know your personal situation. Do you know what I'm saying? Um, because a lot of folks are like, yeah, we've already done that. Like we've already done that, you know. Um, what I can say though, also, I just posted to the community tab over there a movie that I have watched previously, and I actually watched it again yesterday. It's called The Song of Bernadette. It's a true story about a young French girl who was um, not quite special nor bright, viewed by her community, but she ended up witnessing this miracle of the Lady of Lourdes. Okay. And one thing that happened in the movie is that once she started praying at this site, and then it was like the next day, like her dad got like offered a job like that was like steady, and he had been looking for work, like yeah, he was able to work this job and it was okay and it gave the family some money, but you know what I mean, it was not that like something to hold on to type thing. So keeping the faith through those situations, I understand, can be very trying. And me watching that movie was kind of one of those reminders, right? That, and then when you think about it historically, because she was, I think, in her 30s when she passed, and she was quite ill. She had suffered from a lot of pain and things that people didn't know about. And specifically back in her day, they didn't have the type of technology nor the doctors or hospital systems to even investigate such a thing. Um, so practicing that gratitude of like, wow, can you even, sometimes I think, oh, it's hard for me to get on here as a tarot reader, as a messenger, delivering oracle messages or whatever, because people are like, I don't want to believe that, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's better than back in whatever French, you know, rural society in 18 whatever, when your whole family sharing like a 1-2 room house, okay, and nobody expects much of you in life, period. You know, and it was her faith that pulled it through. Okay. I'm also getting that movie right now, Slumdog Millionaire. It's been many years since it came out, and maybe you don't like how the movie was shot or blah blah blah, but the point of the story, and and part of the point of the movie too is that because when she first witnesses this miracle, she was with her sisters to help with the house, but because of her illnesses, they're like, no, you just stay here, we'll take care. And, instead of her just doing nothing, she decides to pray. And it's like, you know, everybody can contribute something, you know. Um, and part of where she was praying at was like kind of near the city dump. Okay. And you're like, ugh, right? But you know what? I'm very happy when the garbage guys come around with the truck and take my stuff out to the dump, right? Like, are we not all living on this planet? You know? So when I hear that phrase when you say breaking my mind off, I get it when we think we have to compete so hard against something instead of letting it learn us through it in a way that may not be something that, you know, is necessarily enjoyable, right? Um, but at the same time, it's not for us to lose our faith. It's to see what we might be able to learn through it. Okay. And sometimes what we learn as well is that, some people that want to be around for the good times, right? When we have that money or we're, you know what I mean? We have the time, the abundance of time or whatever. They're happy then, right? But when you have to like recede and say, well, no, I need to save for this and I need to save for that and I can't, then people will start like shunning you as if like you're doing something wrong. And it's like, actually, no, I'm looking out for number one, right? So, again, if you're worried about like any kind of like keeping up with the Joneses type activity, this is the time to start thinking about numero uno, right? Um, you know, I don't care if the neighbors have an in-ground watering system for their house. If it's that bad, we'll go out and stand on the lawn and water, I guess. Call me feral, right? That Colin Farrell seems like the feral type, right? Now he didn't date Britney Spears, but he did date some American celebrity, I think, for a while, and it was kind of like a thing, a tabloid thing. Anyway, interesting. Madam, take care. Thank you very much. Have a happy and peaceful Sunday. I will. My Yankee gal. Yes. Well, it's funny too that you say Yankee because this, the history of the United States, we had the American Civil War, and the Northerners were called the Yanks, the Yankees, versus the Union Army that was the Confederacy in the South. Okay. Two of Wands. Okay. So for some of you, you might be contemplating right now, and I would say lazily contemplating. So, you know, especially if you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to make a move, blah, 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 right? Okay. Let that be your acceptance, right, of the situation, and then pray again. Okay. You know what I mean? Somebody be like, oh, I already prayed on this. I already thought about this situation. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. It's like going up or down the staircase. Okay. And sometimes the first step is acceptance, right? And then we get to the next step. And then it was like, oh. So I feel like for collective, a lot of you have accepted where you're at and you know that there is going to be a choice coming. Okay. Um, even God got a day off Sunday, right? And right? So allow yourself the freedom from that worry for for whatever 24-hour period you're in. Okay, take a little mental time out. Okay. And then, before you go to sleep or whatever it is, or before you start your work week or whatever, say that affirmation and say, okay, I know I have this decision coming ahead. I pray that I make the best decision, you know, for my family and for me and for whatnot. Okay. So I think for a lot of you, yeah. And you know, try not to get caught up in how others are feeling about it. So for some of you, this could even be where like you get a job opportunity and you have to move. You know, you have to move for work. Well, who's going to take care of your kids? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do it? Well, you're going to figure it out when you get there. Right? But until that time, you need a roof over your head, and you know what I mean? And also the opportunity to do something for yourself and achieve, right? You know, some people think they're on the, you know, like you're on television, right? And they're the ones with the remote control trying to mute you or unmute you and say, well, no, stop, pause you and say, no, you can't do this, rewind, you need to go back. No, that doesn't, it's not how it works. So some of this anxiousness as well. Some of this anxiousness as well may be the fact that people don't know what decision you're going to make. All right. And the fact that maybe you look relaxed and are enjoying life, right? Instead of saying, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about, right? Yeah, you can do that to yourself if you want. Or you can Scarlett O'Hara yourself and say, well, I can't think about that now. I'm going to think about that tomorrow. Right? Because you're only one person solving, you know, your individual problems that hopefully will improve the rest of the world for the rest of everybody's days, right? You know? Um, some folks, in order to get rid of those ruminating thoughts, the obsessive thoughts, whatever, you might want to go see a doctor and say, look, you know, I'm having a lot of anxiety around this decision making, or whatever. I'm just stressed and it's hard for me to focus, right? That's why some people have to take like antidepressants, ADHD medication, whatever it is right, because the outside, sometimes it's hard for us to see where we're supposed, you know, some of us know how to put our own blinders on, or else we've figured out techniques right through our life. Okay. You'll also find that that's why a lot of people who are neurodivergent don't really enjoy taking medicines designed to make them non neurodivergent, because of all the workarounds that they've already figured out. Like, that's just how life operates for them. You know what I mean? It's like you're asking somebody in the military after 30 years to make a new routine. Now, if that person's not bothering anybody, why does it matter? Right? So, you know, we need to think about, you know, when we think about what the world is asking of us, think about why they're asking that of us. Is it just so that we will be another uniform peg in their vision board? I'm in my own vision board. I don't need to be in somebody else's vision board. I mean, if they want to include me, I guess fine, fun, right? But that doesn't mean I'm by their design. I'm by my own design. Okay? When they talk about intelligent design, yeah, let's use the brains that God gave us, right? Part of that's taking care of ourselves and looking good, King of Wands, especially during the Lenten season, right? What do they say? Do not appear as though you are fasting. Do not appear to have that sullen blah blah blah, right? Somebody says they had a house for sale and they might be turning down the offer because it's too low. Yeah, I mean, I live in the US and the market is very fickle, I would say. Things, in my opinion, are towards still, the overpriced end, but that's just kind of how it is. And then we have inflation. So it's kind of like, well, maybe this is, you know what I mean? I think everyone's trying to figure out like where that new normal is, right? And it's that kind of thing. What does it mean to you? Like if you're able to hold on to that for a better price for another 6 months, fine, right? I will tell you the story of the house I'm living in currently. When I purchased it, it was a very competitive time in the market for houses that I purchased. It was not a very competitive time in the market for the house that I was leaving behind. So it took almost a year to sell that, and it was very stressful maintaining two mortgage payments, maintaining two yards, right? All these kinds of things. So it's like, is it going to be worth it to you? That might be that decision, right? When you're presented that offer, okay? And then that's going to be your decision point. And then you have to weigh that. And it's like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here, right? Location, yeah. Not only location, but what's the fee? What's the cost? I was telling somebody while I was on vacation, I'm like, my mortgage, is less than what a lot of people pay in rent. You know what I mean? Especially in the United States, some of these places, it's just beyond astronomical. I don't even know how people can afford to live when they're doing that, and then not have roommates, right? When I was younger, I had roommates, because when you're younger, you're not making, the big money yet, right? So Five of Wands, there could be some competition, maybe for living spaces, for jobs. There's been a lot of news of layoffs lately, things like that. That doesn't mean you're not in the mix, right? It just means you might be getting in the mix in a different way. And it doesn't mean that you yourself are not worthy. Okay. A lot of people let their careers or their jobs determine their self worth. So, like, the second that they're not doing it, right, then it's like, this crash to their ego, right? So, that's again part of having faith, part of tapping into your spirituality and saying, okay, what is this trying to teach me in this moment? What am I needing to learn out of this situation? This is, it's one of those, like, obviously this is a life lesson, right? And maybe that needs to be your prayer, to be like, can you help me figure out which life lesson this is, because it's rather confusing right now. And that's kind of what the Five of Wands is about too, is this confusing energy, the push pull. Where somebody might be like, oh, well, you just got laid off, well, that means you got to do this, or that means you got to do that, or you need to start being an influencer, sell on TikTok, da, da, da. Like, there could be so many different directions, right, that you're being pulled. That doesn't mean you need to go chasing them like you're on a wild goose chase. Again, back to the beginning of how I started this message, knowing when to walk away, right? Yeah, there's opportunities there. hmm There's opportunities that somebody else might be like clamoring for, that, you've been there and done that. And you're like, you know, it's okay, right? I'd be like, it's okay. But you might need the a new opportunity, right? And that's why I feel like it's going to be coming to you more like this, after you've already accepted, okay, obviously I am here at this level for some reason, waiting on the next step, okay? But again, you're being allowed that time to sink in, and like let it sink in that you've gotten to that level, you know. I live near the ocean with sea views from my bedroom, sunrise in the morning, right? If I sell up unique house, I am selling built in the 1840s. Yeah. At one point in time, did you always have a home? Right? Maybe you were just renting at one time. Maybe it's somebody's dream to have a home. You know what I mean? So it's like letting yourself sink into that level that you're already at of being able to, change properties. You know what I mean? And just appreciating that moment. And then I feel like you're going to get the right message. Okay. That could also come through double and snap for you in particular. There could be like a bird type signal. I don't know what kind of birds are near you. Me personally, it's like owls and hawks. Um, I was watching something the other day. Somebody was mentioning crows. Um, so it could be something of significance for you there. Seagulls. Okay. You know what I mean? So if that, that might be, a special kind of signal for you. Yeah. Here's Page of Cups by the sea. Okay. So you could also be somebody who enjoys living by the water, right? Maybe this isn't you abandoning ocean living, right? It's just not at that where you're at. And maybe it's because, you have a job transfer, like I said. Maybe it's because you're getting together with somebody. Maybe you're moving in with somebody and, you all don't need two houses, you know? Whatever it is. Again, there could be other people then starting to compete for your time and they're like, well, what are they up to? Because they're not coming around here and they're not doing this anymore and they're not doing that. And that was going to really suit me and my goals. Right? You got to put your little MGM 1940s Hollywood producer hat on, right? How am I going to get money out of the collective today? Huh? Right? Okay. Yeah. There could be people that want you to hang on your property just so you can rent it out to them. But does that align with your goal? Just saying. I don't know if that's for you, Dublin Snob, but you know what I mean. Sometimes people get trapped in these situations and then it's like they're enmeshed. It's like, oh. It's like we practically sewed this into a quilt together. How do we get at it? Where's the Reaper? Right? Don't fear the Reaper. So for some of you, it may be an ending that you're kind of fearing, but really it's an ending. It's more like where you finished the race. You're running through the finish line and put your arms up, put your arms down, take your drink of water and go take a nice bath. And the next 2 days you got to kick around and recalibrate your life choices about whether or not you want to do that again to your body, right? Some people do these mud runs and stuff. That's kind of coming up, the season for that kind of stuff. I don't have anything against it. Like, I did athletics in high school, so I felt like I was, you know what I mean? I got quite enough of that, Five of Cups. So what did I say about somebody might be feeling unhappy, emotional, and perhaps like throwing a fit, kind of an emotional. Whereas you collective are like, oh my God, can I just get like one day? Right? Can I just get one day of you not asking me about your Xbox account and Fortnite and blah, blah, blah? Right? Can I just get one day of you not asking if we can get another dog because I'm the only person that takes care of the dog in this freaking house? Right? Okay. Okay. And people are like, oh, right? Getting the Robert Plant. Right? The Led Zeppelin. What was he crying about in them songs? My woman, she won't let me. Right? So, yeah. Some folks are just upset because, their status quo has now been interrupted because you have chosen to move on, right? And now they are having to sit with their poor choices. Okay? In the movie, where it's like they chose poorly. Okay? And when that happens, what happens? It takes time away from what you're supposed to be doing. So, in some of those cases, what you're supposed to be doing is maybe doing your affirmations, your meditation, staying prayed up, right? Instead of listening to, yeah, but if you're not around now, how am I gonna get? How am I gonna get this? Right? Right, Sugaree, you just do one more for me. Come on, baby. Open up your eyes. This is the Grateful Dead tarot deck, but I do believe in the power of messages through music in general, right? So if you are hearing song lyrics, as well as I was mentioning to the gentleman earlier about bird signals, so like, signals in nature. It could be a specific flower for somebody. I'm getting kind of like almost like a hot pinkish, almost like an orchid kind of looking, but more like regular flower, like Hawaiian flower looking for somebody, in like a fuchsia color. Okay. That could be um, some kind of signal that you see that you're like, okay, this is going to be the right thing to do. Yes. you know what is that song? If you could only see the way she loves me. Alexa, who sings If You Can Only See the Way She Loves Me?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, the name of this song is If You Could Only See. It is performed by Tonic and written by Lawrence Carr.
That's the song, yeah, by Tonic. It was like in the 90s. If you could only see the way she loves me, maybe you'd understand why I feel this way about our love and what I must do. So, again, there could be other people upset with you, wanting you to do, pulling you in this direction. No, man, come on, we need the extra for baseball and blah, blah, whatever it is. And you're like, I can't right now. I got other things going on. And maybe it's because of that, you know? Maybe you have a partnership going on with somebody. And I heard ordained, like a partnership that is ordained, not all these backstabbers just like waiting to be like, you need to, like, you need to get back in here so I can command you to do everything under my little roof the way I want it. This is why I'm not a big fan of families that cohabitate. And I understand in the United States and in some cultures it is very common. to share a single house, but just like that movie. Um, you know, thank God my ancestors have been through enough that we don't have to live in a 2-room house, right? Um, one of my grandmothers, the first house she lived in with her husband had a dirt floor. How do you sweep a dirt floor? It's kind of crazy to think about, okay? And that now we have the opportunity to do something amazing, right? And and part of that is because we do not have the limitations of others holding us back. A lot of nasty neighbors around me here. Yeah, I get that. Not, you know, it doesn't, where we living, community wise. So a lot of people don't like churches either, because a lot of churches, the people get very cliquey, and if you are not coming, I mean, you have to be there every Sunday. And if you weren't there on Sunday and Wednesday too, when they're doing this and that, and then it's like, well, you're just one. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, y'all need to be happy anybody's coming to church at all these days. Yeah, jealous people. Yeah, there's unfortunately, yeah, jealousy. They say money is the root of all evil, but really, like jealousy, greed, envy, those things are what propel people to want these material things, right? And some of them, it's because they have actually allowed themselves to believe promises of entities that the rest of us have rebuked forever and a day, right? Forever and ever, amen, like Randy Travis style. You know what I'm saying? High priest, yeah. So through all this muck, basically, you're gonna be like, okay, well, it might be one of these things. Okay, like say you have an important decision coming up, and in the past maybe you would call one of your best friends. In the past maybe you would call a parental figure. Maybe in the past you would call a specific business mentor, right? And be like, hey, I have this opportunity, blah 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 blah. What's going to happen is you're going to have this conversation with yourself in your head, and you're going to make the decision. You might be journaling as part of it to help. Yeah, Emperor. Yeah, you're not taking any sauce from anybody else. Okay, well, actually, this is King of Pentacles, but um, so what you're going to do is going to make financial sense. All right. And the reason that you're being asked to lean upon yourself is because you are actually the only person with this experience. Well, if I ran a business here, I would do such and such. Okay. Do you run a business here? Right? Who are you surrounding yourself with if you're leaning on some of this advice, right? But and I'm not saying that you shouldn't in certain situations, especially legally, making sure you get the I's and T's and and make sure these people are not unscrupulous that you're dealing with either. But how you move forward, how you move forward specifically, the message is gonna come for you. It's not gonna be like, oh, a phone call from your accountant saying that it's okay for you to apply for this loan or blah blah. No, 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 no. You've already, like, in your third eye, you have like dreamed this vision. All right, and you're stepping towards it. This is Taurus as well, which is literally coming up right after Aries. So, you know, as fast as Aries wants to be that burst of energy, and then it's like, oh, then that Taurus just sits there, right? Because that's the time for the seeds to really start germinating, coming through the soil, and it's like, talk about stubborn. You'd be like, what China shop? This is my house, bitch. Right? You know, especially if somebody's trying to rush you into a deal, into signing papers, you know, and especially if they're trying to lowball you on something and be like, you know how some realtors are, you know, they come in, it's like, oh God, if you're looking at a house, they're not going to try and help you get the price down. But when they come and appraise your house, oh, your walls are this color. Oh, your carton. You know what I mean? Like all these things that when you walk through a house, they're like, oh, you can just paint it. You can just paint it. You can just get new carpet. La 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 la. Like it's no big thing. But when it's your, then it's like severely, you know, in their estimation. It's like, is it really affecting my appraisal value, or is it just affecting your ability to sell? You know. So let me tell you, the guy that bought my old house, he already actually had it listed on Craigslist before the ink was even dry on the transfer papers. Like I probably could have sued him for that because he was like trying to illegally rent my house before it was even sold in his possession. Isn't that wild? But I was glad to get rid of it though. So I thought, ugh, he's gonna be a nice swarmy landlord. It's supposed to start raining here in the next few. I am going to, you know, there was a new moon. So I'll do some moonology. The surveyor mentioned about estate agents can undervalue your property for other buyers. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, you should always pay for your own appraisal too. I mean, that's, you know, yeah. You know, and it's the thing too, is like you want to believe people, right? Especially if you have a good heart, right? It's like you want to believe people, but you know, they will lie to you straight to your face, you know. And, you know, and somebody would be like, oh, well, yeah, real estate agents and lawyers, they're all scammers. Yeah. Well, what if it's somebody you know, right? You're hoping that person's going to be honest with you, right? You're hoping a lawyer would like see the difference between right and wrong. Like that's what they went to school for, right? I don't know. Maybe you have to go to school that long to figure out the difference between right and wrong. You got bigger problems. I don't know. Maybe that's why so many lawyers are rotten. I haven't really met too many worth of shit lately. But, you know, what can you do? Especially if they don't see a big payday for it themselves. It's, you know, kind of like some of these roofing guys. They only want those big insurance claims. They don't want to come over and fix a couple shingles here or there. Oh, no. No, they want that big money. Maybe not as ethical as me. Exactly. That's what, at the end of the day, you know, and some of these people will be like, what, you think you're better than me? Blah, blah. Well, you might want to silently say to yourself, yes, yes, you are, because you're not out here trying to scam people. That becomes very simple to answer, doesn't it? Doesn't take a rocket scientist. Okay. Even the little girl, the little French girl that saw Our Lady of Lourdes at the dump knows the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. Adjustments are required. Yeah, so some of you may not have been seeing something before, where all of a sudden you do see something and it's like, ah, and that's just gonna shift your perspective and you're gonna be like, say no, say less, right? Um, you know, maybe you're a big meat eater and your date wants to go to a vegan restaurant and you're like, well, that's probably like say less, that's probably not gonna work, right? Yeah. Either you can make that adjustment or the adjustment is that it's just not for you, right? Um that's the thing. Being accepting of something doesn't mean that you have to actually go and do it, right? I am accepting of people having say non-traditional relationships as long as they're between consenting adults. That doesn't mean that I have to go out and partake in those kinds of relationships. And that's what some of these people, especially karmically, they think because they're doing it, everybody's doing it. That's why they're doing it, because they think everybody's doing it, because they think it's going to gain them some kind of popularity or something. So if those are the type of people that you're around, again, you might want to question what their motivation is, right? And the adjustment may be that you are no longer in their sauce. Right. So you don't get caught up in the karma that does not belong to you. Right. You have your own life to live and lead. So if you're not leading your own life, then who is? Some of these folks making these bad decisions left and right. Left and right. Okay, you made bad decisions when you're a teenager. Yeah, I get it. A lot of people do that. Not everybody, but a lot do. And you can make bad decisions in your 20s, right? Some of us make bad decisions in our 30s, even our 40s, right? What kind of bad decisions, though? I mean, is this like, you used papaya instead of mango in that smoothie this morning and now you got indigestion, that kind of bad decision? Or is this like, hey, we decided to maybe tie somebody up and I don't have a weapon anymore, but what if they thought I did, right? Yeah. What? Like, that's what you like to do on the weekends, bro? I will adjust my presence to not be around you. Real quick. Doesn't take much thought then, does it? No. No, it doesn't. And then after a while you gotta think to yourself too, it's like, okay, so considering so and so was such a huge piece of shit, like that's what they actually wanted for me. Know who you're dealing with and adjust as needed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a guilt-free adjustment, right? Yeah, and it's always moving forward, isn't it? Because we can't go back and change the past. And that's what all these karmic energies want to do, is they want to like rewrite like what happened. It's like, no, you can only rewrite your future, right? As thy will be done, right? Because some of this we just cannot escape, right? Especially after we've made certain choices. A time to give rather than take, okay? So yeah, have all these people pulling in this direction, but really what you need to be doing is giving to yourself. And when you do that, the rest of humanity benefits. Okay? So if you're one of those real, guilty in the guilt type folks, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't have any purpose to that. Trust me, you start putting that time into yourself, the right people are going to get the message. The right people are going to get that purpose. Stop wasting the message on people that don't want to listen. Some people just don't want to listen. Don't make that your challenge if your ears are not broken, right? I mean, my dog knows how to listen. She probably listens a lot better than most humans. A new start is coming. Yeah. So again, this upsetness, of like, and maybe it's something like, okay, you live in the neighborhood, like maybe you help people walk their dogs or you help take somebody's trash out or blah blah. And then it's like, well, who am I gonna get to help me if you're not there, right? You cannot be their linchpin forever, holding, the water in the dike. All right, you are allowed to make new beginnings for yourself wherever that is. Okay, Metallica, wherever I roam. And you're roaming where you want. Why? Because you know how to get there. You're like, I've been on a plane before. I've been on a train before. I know how to operate a vehicle. I'm good. I'm good. Right? One more, please. So for some of you, you might be traveling more versus staying stationary. Okay. Hold your vision. Yeah. So whatever you are visioning, whatever you're moving forward, let this be your confirmation that you're on the right track. Okay. An adjustment may be required, maybe you're in a holding period, a waiting period, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Maybe this is like, okay, I filed my taxes and I just have to wait, right? Or, whatever it is. Okay. So, and here it's like the half moon, all right? Just because you can only see part of the moon doesn't mean the rest of the moon's not there, right? Okay. So again, wherever it is you're moving to, maybe you haven't found the exact right place yet or blah, blah, right? That doesn't mean you don't have that idea, that vision in your mind. Okay. That kind of Four of Wands, like this is going to be it, right? Okay. And I have here balance, spirituality, and practicality. And that's lining up with the King of Pentacles. So, again, somebody could be like, oh, well, I got this new sports car. Well, you're like, that's cool. I'm saving for a house right now. Well, I saw somebody got arrested, where they're going to lose their driving privileges. And it's like, was it worth it? Because how are you going to get to your job now? Balance the practical side of your life so that you're not making decisions that involve running around with people who are not looking out for you. Look out for number one. Alrighty. Yeah. So until those decisions like need to be made, right? Until you actually need to sign, enjoy a little bit. Yeah, self-preservation. Exactly. Enjoy a little bit of bliss. It's okay to put those blinders on for like 2 seconds and not have to worry about somebody else's problems, right? you know, Especially those of you that grew up in any kind of chaotic family situation, or siblings that might have expected you to do the heavy lifting, and then it's like now you're adults and you're like, when are you going to grow up? you know One of my friends, their sibling was like, "Oh, you're my retirement plan." I was like, did they really? I was like, they don't really mean that, do they? But it's like, do they? Because, yes, I've seen people paying on other people's car loans and mortgages, and when they're off living this life and not really doing much of the hard work, just saying. Free ride don't last forever, does it? And don't think they're going to turn around and be helping you. That's part of this lesson of walking away. All right. Because a lot of these people had a lot of opportunity to kind of make their dime off of you, so to speak, and they weren't able to do it. Okay. And what they want you to do is turn tricks for them in the meantime. I am a musician. I do readings, but like I don't do it on cue for people. Like I went out with this guy once, and I happened to have my guitar with me, but he was like, "Hey, can you play me this one?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do that right now." You know what I mean? I'm not your pocket monkey to stand up at the street corner and say, "Okay, go go entertain the folks so I can pass the hat around later." Right? Sometimes you have to draw those boundaries in life up front so people understand what your limits are, what you're willing to do, and how you treat yourself and respect your own time. Okay. Especially if something like that is like a legitimate job for you. It's like, you know, it's like inviting a guest over to your house that maybe they do HVAC, maybe they do tile, and it's like, then are you going to sit there and talk their ear off about tile and HVAC like they're at a job, like at a job site? Understand how people value you. Sometimes it's what you can do for them, right? And if they're not willing to compensate you for your time for what you can do for them, then are they worthy of your time? Or do you just need to tap into the ignorance of their problems and let bliss take over for you? All right, so go ahead and bliss yourself out this Sunday. Thank you, everybody, for your kind comments today in the chat. Until next time, please do manifest wisely. Bye bye.